Ladies and gentlemen, if you've ever felt like your voice is hiding your power, if you've ever stood in front of a room or looked at a camera and thought, do I sound like I mean what I'm saying, then this moment right here matters. Because today, we're going to talk about something more than just sounding good. We're going to talk about sounding like the person you were born to be. Your voice is more than sound. It's your identity made audible. It's the unseen energy that tells the world who you are before your words even land. People don't just hear you, they feel you. They measure your certainty, your belief, your confidence in every tone you release. When you speak, your voice carries the story of how much you believe in yourself. That's why you can't afford to treat it as background noise. Your voice is your introduction, your authority, your personal brand in motion. It's the vibration of your mindset. Every time you speak, you send a message about what you think of yourself. A timid voice tells the world you doubt your place. A rushed voice tells them you're chasing approval. A sharp defensive tone says you're protecting something fragile. But when your voice carries calm conviction, it says something different. It says you know who you are. It says you've done the work to earn your presence. That's the voice of someone who's aligned, focused, and intentional. That's the sound of identity rooted in purpose. Think about it. How many people spend their lives trying to find their voice, not realizing it's been there all along, buried under fear, imitation, and self-doubt? You were born with a sound that was meant to command attention, but somewhere between judgment and comparison, you learned to shrink it. You learned to play small in conversations that needed your truth. And every time you hid your voice, a part of your potential stayed silent too. Your voice is not just vocal cords and breath, it's the reflection of your mindset. When your thoughts are cluttered, your speech becomes messy. When your purpose is unclear, your tone becomes uncertain. But when your mind is anchored in clarity and self-belief, your voice follows with precision and power. That's why improving the way you sound isn't just about technique. It's about transformation. It's about aligning who you are on the inside with what the world hears on the outside. The reason great communicators stand out is because their voice carries truth. You can feel it when someone speaks from a place of integrity. Their tone doesn't beg for validation. It commands respect. Their pauses are confident, not hesitant. Their energy fills the room, not through volume, but through authenticity. That's the difference between sounding impressive and sounding real. One fades, the other stays. Your voice reveals whether you're performing or expressing. People can sense the difference. When you perform, you chase reaction. When you express, you build connection, and connection is where influence lives. The greatest leaders don't force their voice, they free it. They understand that their sound is an extension of their identity. They speak to serve, not to please. They let their truth shape their tone. The power of your voice lies in awareness. When you listen to how you sound, you gain insight into how you think. Do you rush your words because you fear silence? Do you lower your tone because you don't feel deserving of space? Or do you slow down and let each word carry weight because you know it matters? That awareness changes everything. You start training your voice not to impress, but to express with intention. Every syllable you release is a signature. It's proof that you exist, that you matter, that you have something worth saying. But you must earn that sound by owning it. Stand tall when you speak. Breathe fully before you respond. Don't apologize for the space your sound occupies. You are not supposed to sound like anyone else. You are supposed to sound like you, sharpened by discipline, strengthened by experience, and refined by purpose. When your voice aligns with your identity, it becomes magnetic. People don't just listen, they remember, they recall how you made them feel. They remember the calm in your tone, the certainty in your rhythm, the authority in your silence. That's legacy, not loudness. Not performance, presence. When you reach that level, you don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You simply need to speak, and the room adjusts. So if you truly want to improve the way you sound, start by improving the way you see yourself. Because your sound follows your self-image, heal the doubt and your tone will rise, strengthen your purpose and your words will carry power. The sound of confidence doesn't come from shouting, it comes from self-belief. It's the quiet certainty that what you're saying matters. The voice you project today will echo long after you stop speaking. It's your audible legacy. So speak like someone whose words deserve to be remembered. Speak like someone who refuses to blend in. Let every note, every pause, every breath reflect the standard you've set for yourself. Because the world doesn't just want to hear what you say, it wants to feel who you are. And when your voice finally matches your identity, that's when people stop hearing noise and start hearing you. Clarity without conviction is noise. Conviction without clarity is chaos, but when both merge, you create impact. Every word you speak becomes a weapon, every sentence becomes a statement. The greatest communicators aren't the ones who say the most. They're the ones who say what matters, and they say it like they mean it. Clarity makes your message understood. Conviction makes it felt. Together they make it unforgettable. Most people speak to be heard, not to be understood. They throw words hoping something sticks, but clarity demands discipline. It requires you to strip away the unnecessary, to refine your thoughts before they reach your tongue. You don't speak to fill space. You speak to fill minds. When you communicate with clarity, there's no confusion about your intention. People can sense that you know where you're going, and they follow. Conviction, on the other hand, is what separates the speaker from the leader. It's the pulse behind your words. It's the difference between I think and I know. It's not arrogance, it's assurance. Conviction is born from alignment, from knowing your message is true to your values. When you speak with conviction, people don't just listen, they believe, and belief is the currency of influence. Think about the voices that stay with you long after they stop speaking. They weren't necessarily the loudest or the most polished, but they were clear and certain. You felt the weight of their words because there was no hesitation behind them. That's the kind of presence clarity with conviction builds. You stop competing for attention and start commanding it. You stop chasing validation and start creating transformation. Clarity starts with thought. If your thinking is cluttered, your words will be too. Before you speak, simplify. Ask yourself, what am I really trying to say? What is the outcome I want from this moment? When you know that, your message cuts through the noise. You no longer speak in circles or drown your point in unnecessary detail. Every word has purpose. Every sentence builds momentum. Clarity forces you to respect your listener's time and your own. Conviction comes from belief, and belief comes from experience, preparation, and truth. When you've done the work, your tone carries evidence. You don't need to force authority. It flows through you. The reason so many people sound unsure is because they speak about things they haven't lived, lessons they haven't earned. Conviction can't be faked. It's forged in repetition, failure, and resilience. When you've walked through something, your voice carries that energy. That's what people connect to. The challenge is that clarity and conviction require courage. It's easy to speak vaguely and hide behind big words. It's safe to stay in generalities where nobody can challenge you. But true clarity demands vulnerability. You must be specific enough to stand for something and bold enough to defend it. That's where your credibility grows. The moment you stop hiding behind confusion, you start building trust. Conviction also means standing firm when others don't agree. You don't waver because the room doesn't nod. You don't dilute your message to please ears that aren't ready. Conviction is not about volume, it's about certainty. You can speak softly and still shake the ground beneath someone if you're speaking from truth. People remember energy, not volume. They remember certainty, not noise, in every interaction, on stage, in business, or in conversation. You're teaching people how to perceive you. When you speak with clarity and conviction, they recognize leadership. They feel safety in your certainty. They start trusting your word because you sound like someone who means it. That's not charisma, that's clarity backed by conviction. It's the kind of communication that moves people, not by manipulation, but by inspiration. There's a moment before you speak when your mind decides whether your voice will lead or follow. If you hesitate, you hand over your power, but if you ground yourself in purpose and truth, your tone shifts. The energy in the room bends. People sense that this isn't just another voice. They are hearing someone who believes every word they say. That's the power of alignment. So ask yourself, when you speak, do your words reflect confidence or confusion? Do people leave understanding your message or wondering what you meant? The answer reveals whether you're communicating with clarity and conviction or just speaking out of habit. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs voices that sound like they know why they're here. When you master this combination, everything about your communication changes. You no longer rely on scripts. You speak from understanding. You no longer need validation. You stand in self-assurance. Clarity cuts through distraction. Conviction ignites belief. Together, they make you unforgettable, because when you speak with clarity, you inform. When you speak with conviction, you inspire, and when you speak with both, you influence. You shape decisions, you shift perspectives, you leave a mark that outlives the moment. That's the sound of purpose made powerful. That's what happens when your message stops being words and becomes legacy. Authenticity is the foundation of every powerful voice. Resonance is what makes that voice remembered. When you combine both, you create a presence that can't be ignored. Authentic resonance isn't about sounding perfect, it's about sounding true. It's when your tone, your energy, and your message align so deeply with who you are that people don't just hear you, they feel you. That's the difference between communication and connection. One fades. The other lingers. Too many people try to sound impressive instead of honest. They chase polish and lose power. They rehearse emotion instead of revealing truth. But people can always sense what's real. You don't have to be flawless to be felt. You have to be sincere. When your voice carries the texture of your truth, it cuts through every wall of skepticism. You can't fake resonance. You either mean it or you don't. Authenticity begins where performance ends. The moment you stop trying to sound like someone else, you start discovering your real tone. Every person has a natural rhythm, a sound that reflects their spirit. But over time, fear and imitation bury it. We listen to others so much that we forget our own sound. Authentic resonance starts with unlearning. You must strip away everything that isn't you. The forced accent, the unnatural pace, the overused buzzwords, they all block connection. Real influence comes when you speak from a place that doesn't need approval. Resonance isn't just volume, it's vibration. It's how deeply your message moves the person across from you. Two people can say the same words, but only one will create impact. Why? Because resonance carries emotion, it carries belief, it carries lived experience. When your story is genuine and your energy is consistent, your sound travels beyond ears. It hits hearts. That's what creates loyalty, trust, and transformation. When you speak from authenticity, you stop competing. You realize there's no race to sound like anyone else. Your individuality becomes your strength. The small imperfections in your tone, the pauses you take to gather emotion, the rawness in your expression, those are not flaws. They're fingerprints. They make your voice human, and that humanity is what makes people connect. The audience doesn't remember the perfect performance. They remember the honest one. Authentic resonance demands vulnerability. You can't connect from behind a mask. The voice that moves others is the voice that's willing to be seen, to be imperfect, to be real. That doesn't mean oversharing or dramatizing. It means speaking with intention and emotional honesty. When you share truth without fear, you give others permission to do the same. That's leadership through authenticity. Resonance also requires alignment. Your words, your tone, and your body language must all say the same thing. You can't sound passionate if your energy is low. You can't preach confidence if your eyes avoid contact. You can't talk about belief if your tone wavers in doubt. Authentic resonance happens when what you say and what you show are one. That alignment creates magnetic presence. People can't explain why they're drawn to you, they just feel it. The power of your resonance grows when your purpose is clear. Every sound carries intention. When you speak with purpose, your voice naturally finds strength. You don't have to force emotion. It flows because it's rooted in meaning. That's why great communicators don't memorize lines, they internalize their message. They don't perform, they embody. When you embody your truth, your sound carries authority that no technique can replicate. Authenticity also demands self-awareness. You have to know what you stand for before your sound can represent it. The world is full of loud voices saying nothing. Don't be one of them. Slow down, reflect, ask yourself, what do I truly believe in? What experiences have shaped my tone? What message do I want to leave behind when my voice fades? The clearer your answers, the stronger your resonance. Resonance is not about reaching everyone. It's about reaching the right ones. When you speak with authenticity, you attract the audience that aligns with your truth. You repel those who don't, and that's not a loss, it's precision. You're not meant to echo in every room, you're meant to reverberate in the right one. The right people will always find your frequency. Your authentic sound becomes your signature. It's the energy people associate with your name. It's what makes your words believable, your leadership trustworthy, your message timeless. You don't need to manipulate emotion when you can awaken it. You don't need to chase attention when you can command it with truth. That's the kind of power that doesn't fade after applause, it stays, because it's real. So, speak from your center. Don't let trends shape your tone. Don't let fear mute your message. The most impactful sound is the one that carries your essence. When you speak with authenticity, you resonate not just through speakers or screens, but through souls. Your words travel beyond time because they're anchored in truth. Every time you speak, remember, you're not performing, you're transmitting energy. Make that energy honest. Let your sound be a mirror of your integrity. Let it carry the lessons, scars, and victories that built you. Because authentic resonance is more than the way you sound. It's the way your truth vibrates through the world long after you've gone silent. That's the sound of legacy. Greatness doesn't happen by accident. Mastery isn't luck. It's built through deliberate practice, consistent, intentional repetition designed to sharpen what most people overlook. Anyone can practice, but few do it deliberately. The difference, purpose. One is motion, the other is transformation. One makes you busy, the other makes you better. Every person who ever reached excellence started with a choice to stop practicing for comfort and start practicing for growth. They understood that talent can open doors, but only disciplined repetition keeps them open. Deliberate practice isn't glamorous. It's not about motivation. It's about structure, sacrifice, and focus. It's the kind of training that demands presence, not perfection. When you practice deliberately, you don't just repeat what you already know. You push into the uncomfortable spaces where your weaknesses lie. You study your flaws with precision. You ask, what can I refine today that will make me stronger tomorrow? You isolate the smallest details, knowing those details create the biggest difference. Deliberate practice is the science of becoming unshakable, one small correction at a time. Most people avoid that level of intensity. They want quick results without repetition. They crave recognition without refinement, but mastery doesn't reward the impatient. It rewards those who are willing to do the same thing hundreds of times with the same hunger as the first. The ones who understand that every rep, every line, every speech, every movement is an opportunity to embed excellence into their DNA. The truth is, deliberate practice is not about doing more, it's about doing with intention. You don't need endless hours, you need focused hours. A single hour of concentrated effort is more valuable than a day of distracted repetition. Every session must have a goal. What are you training for? What are you measuring? What will you adjust? If you can't answer those questions, you're not practicing. You're pretending. You must also embrace feedback. Deliberate practice thrives on reflection. You record yourself. You listen to your tone, you analyze your body language, you evaluate your timing, your presence, your delivery, not to criticize yourself, but to refine your craft. The ego hates this process because it exposes imperfection. But that's where growth begins. In the discomfort of self-awareness, you cannot improve what you refuse to confront. The masters of any field don't run from repetition, they run toward it. They understand that excellence is built in the unseen hours, the lonely mornings, the silent rehearsals, the moments no one claps for. They are obsessed with improvement, not applause, and that obsession is what separates them from the ordinary. The world only sees their performance, not their preparation, but their consistency is their secret weapon. Deliberate practice is also mental. You can't just train your skills, you must train your focus. Every distraction is an enemy of mastery. You have to learn to stay locked in when your mind wants to drift. You have to learn to sustain energy when excitement fades. That's when discipline replaces motivation. You show up even when it's inconvenient. You practice even when you're tired, because you know progress doesn't wait for your mood. It rewards your consistency, and understand this. Deliberate practice is not supposed to feel good. It's supposed to stretch you. The discomfort is the evidence that you're expanding your limits. If it's easy, it's maintenance. If it's uncomfortable, it's growth. Every time you push through that resistance, you're building something more than skill. You're building identity. You're becoming the kind of person who refuses to settle for good enough. Every master once stumbled through their first attempt. Every powerful voice once cracked. Every confident leader once doubted themselves. But they practiced with intention. They repeated not until they got it right, but until they couldn't get it wrong. They didn't chase perfection. They chased progress, and over time, deliberate effort turned into automatic excellence. This is how you build a voice, a brand, a legacy. You don't do it once. You do it every day. You speak, you listen, you adjust. You evaluate every interaction as a training ground. You approach every challenge as an opportunity to refine your edge. You are not practicing for the next performance. You are practicing for the next level of yourself. So when you step into your craft tomorrow, don't just show up. Show intention. Ask yourself, what am I here to improve? What lesson can I extract from this moment? How can I raise my standard just 1 inch higher? Because 1 inch of progress multiplied daily becomes unstoppable momentum. Deliberate practice is the bridge between potential and power. It's what turns skill into instinct and effort into legacy. You cannot fake it. You cannot shortcut it. You earn it through relentless repetition, through focused refinement, through the patience to keep showing up when it feels invisible. Every time you practice with purpose, you're writing the story of your greatness. Quietly, consistently, deliberately, and when the world finally sees the results, they'll call it talent, but you'll know the truth. It wasn't talent. It was the thousands of unseen moments where you chose to practice with intention when no one was watching. That's what builds mastery. That's what leaves a legacy. Your sound is more than voice. It's your signature. It's the invisible mark you leave on people long after you've stopped speaking. Every tone, every word, every pause writes a story about who you are and what you stand for. Legacy through sound isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being remembered after the noise fades. It's about creating a voice so rooted in authenticity and purpose that its echo becomes your impact. When you speak, you're not just communicating, you're transmitting energy. That energy carries your beliefs, your experiences, your truth. The sound of your voice can either build bridges or burn them. It can awaken others or put them to sleep. The difference lies in intention. Most people speak to be heard, few speak to be felt. Legacy lies in the latter. Because words alone fade, but emotion stays. People might forget what you said, but they'll never forget how your sound made them feel. Every great voice leaves residue. You've felt it before, the speech that lingers in your chest long after it ends, the tone that shakes you awake, the quiet moment that silences a room. That's legacy through sound. It's not about perfect articulation or flawless delivery. It's about resonance. When the soul behind your sound connects with the soul across from you, you can't teach that through technique, you build it through truth. Your voice carries your essence. When you speak from conviction, your sound tells the world you mean every word. When you speak with compassion, your sound becomes healing. When you speak with vision, your sound turns into movement. That's the power of voice as legacy. It becomes more than communication. It becomes transformation. Most people underestimate how powerful their sound is. They think legacy is built through what they achieve, not realizing it's also built through how they express. The way you sound in moments of pressure, pain, or passion reveals who you truly are. A strong voice isn't loud, it's clear. A legacy voice isn't commanding. It's consistent. Every time you speak, you're shaping perception, you're building trust or breaking it. You're either amplifying your truth or diluting it. Your sound is your constant ambassador. It speaks even when you're silent. To build legacy through sound, you must first know yourself. You can't express what you don't understand. The more grounded you are in your values, the more grounded your sound becomes. People can sense when your tone comes from alignment versus performance. They can feel when your words are rehearsed versus when they're real. Legacy is built in that difference. It's the gap between sound that's heard and sound that's believed. Every tone carries an intention. When you speak without clarity, you confuse. When you speak with conviction, you influence. The more deliberate you are with your sound, the more control you have over your impact. You don't raise your voice to get attention. You raise your intention to earn it. The goal isn't to impress, it's to imprint. Your sound also evolves with you. Growth changes your tone. Maturity gives your voice depth. Experience adds color to your words. When you've walked through pain, people can hear the strength in your delivery. When you've conquered fear, people can feel the courage in your sound. Legacy through sound is built over time. It's the accumulation of your emotional and spiritual evolution expressed through voice. You must train your sound like you train your mind. Record yourself. Listen to your energy, your pace, your conviction. Ask, does my sound reflect who I am becoming or who I used to be? The world hears your frequency before your message. If your sound carries doubt, they'll feel it. If your sound carries certainty, they'll trust it. Your voice must match your identity if you want your message to last beyond the moment. Legacy through sound isn't about making speeches, it's about leaving signals. Every conversation, every interaction, every message is a piece of that legacy. You never know who's listening when your sound shifts someone's mindset or ignites their belief. That's the real power. You might not see the impact, but your sound travels further than you imagine. Words fade, but the emotion behind them becomes timeless. Think of your sound as a bridge between presence and permanence. Your presence is what people hear. Your permanence is what they remember. When you align your voice with your purpose, every sound you make becomes a ripple in someone else's story. That ripple becomes memory. That memory becomes meaning. That meaning becomes legacy. So the next time you speak, on stage, in a meeting, or in a conversation, pause and ask yourself, what will my sound leave behind? Will it inspire action or spark confusion? Will it echo strength or insecurity? Because your sound will outlive your moment. Speak with intention. Speak with integrity. Speak with impact, because your legacy isn't only built by what you do, it's carried by how you sound doing it. When your sound carries truth, it travels across hearts, across time, across generations. It becomes a voice that doesn't die when you stop speaking. It becomes a voice that continues the work long after you're gone. That's legacy through sound, when your words stop being heard and start being remembered. When your sound no longer belongs to the moment, but to the movement it created. So here's my challenge to you. Starting today, when you open your mouth, ask yourself, does the world hear the real me? Or just a quieter version of me? Raise your voice, refine your sound, let it carry your truth, let it convict the room, let it build your legacy, because the way you sound isn't just the way you're heard. It's the way you're felt, the way you're remembered, the way you change the world. And if you want to improve the way you sound, if you want your voice to match your vision, then commit, practice, rise, and let your voice become the legacy you were born to leave. Thank you. Now go and make your sound unforgettable.